What's going on, Bueller team? So today I just wanted to cover a small video. So we had a live stream today in the Bueller chat. We're actually still in it right now. I muted myself so I could do this video real quick. But JBake today has been covering the stream, been covering a lot of really good info, all that good stuff. But today I'm gonna cover the trades that we took today. So both of us post daily watch list every single day. I mainly talk about SPY. Sometimes I'll talk about tech and the Qs, and then I'll do my main watch list. And then a lot of the time I let JBake do the Qs because he's a lot better at posting the Qs and video, all that good stuff. But a lot of the time we end up talking about the same stuff basically. We talk about levels, kind of the vibes of the market. Therefore you're prepared before the market's even open. So going into the trade floor, you can see we have UPST. We had a bunch of other things we're looking at, but the main two I'm going to talk about today are AMD and Apple, which if I could find it. There we go. The message helps me find it. And then Apple. We did a same week 140 call at 210, stop loss 39.10, target 140.35 and 141, which I'll also cover that. But as you can see, before the chart had moved, we were looking at buying the dip here as long as it held 139, keeping that as our stop loss. If it closed under, then we'd get out. We liked the low volume after it popped up in the first 10 minutes and it was trying to hold a good area. So what we're looking for is it to pop inside of the range, take profits on most of our positions at this first level here, and if we can get up to the next psychological 141, which is also pretty close to the previous day open / almost the high, then that'll give us another good just short-term resistance that we can use as a really good high probability target. So I'm going to go through both AMD and Apple. But first let's do Apple just because that's more fresh on the mind. But as you can see, Apple ended up holding this 139 with no candles closing under. It was during here that we were entering. You can see indecisive candle. Wick pulled back up. And I think the first 2 minutes of this candle just kind of traded here. And then towards the end of the candle, it started pushing back up. Another indecisive candle. Great time to take some profits right here. The contract went from 2.10 to 2.50 by the time it had gotten from here to here. And then by the time it pumped from here to here, the contract had moved from 2.50 to 2.60, also 2.80. So pretty good gains on a very cheap contract for a same week. Very risky, of course, but again, when you're taking these inside of the range bounces, we're not looking to sit in these trades too long because most of the time we're aiming to sell at whatever nearest term significant resistance there is, especially when you're doing a long bounce. You can see we're bouncing here and we're aiming for the high of day. Anything else we get, we can set runners on, we can, scale out, sell the rest of our position at a higher spot, whatever. But the majority of our position we are trying to sell at this resistance just because that gets us a little bit better probability in our risk reward situation there. So as we can push to higher levels, we're not really risking as much. And then AMD, which I'll go back to chat so you can see. But as you can see, we had called it out. Bunch of fun. We're all in chat. We don't have a bunch of people stream at the same time. But today, JBake had plenty of time. I was also on. You can see people entering, talking about the trades. We're also updating it at the same time because there was a couple times where I'd actually typed out, we're about to cut if it does end up closing. I had talked about it testing the stop loss and everything. So we like to be clear as much as we can. As you can see, jump down to the present. You see the team's still talking about exiting Apple, talking about the market. J Money here talking about SPY. But let's go look at AMD real quick. So AMD was a similar trade. We were looking for a bounce up to the top side there. We didn't quite get the same bounce we would have liked on, per se, like Apple. But of course, with NVIDIA having earnings at the end of today, it's possibly giving a little bit more of a squeeze on semiconductors. But you can see, even though it didn't bounce too high, there was still a couple profitable spots here. But as you can see, still maintaining this resistance, still maintaining this range trade. You can see we're really trading inside of this candle here, is what you're looking at. So until it exits that, you still really don't know an Apple. But JBake ended up taking, I think, 9% on this play, and I think he scaled out the last of his position at like 2%. So nothing amazing, again, but that's a great base hit. Again, and it had a great plan and everything, whereas Apple is the same setup. It just happened to work, So it's, again, we're just taking what we have and we're sticking to what we planned beforehand. We're not going to sit here and just do a guessing game or change up our plan just because our emotions say something else. Definitely don't mess around with all that. But let's talk about the market real quick too. So the past couple days, I'll start off with the daily. And please, please, please ignore the amount of lines here. So the way we chart, there's always going to be a lot of levels, but I'm not focused upon that when I'm on the bigger time frame. This is to help me when I'm on this time frame. You can see it actually helps me out very significantly. But here on the daily, what we've done is we basically just cascaded down. We had one buyer reaction here, so this is kind of the top of the range I'm looking. And then we have held a meet of the low about right here at the 388 area. 387 is kind of what I'm telling my team, 388. But as you can see, this is kind of our current range right now. Currently, we made another hammer, a second indecisive higher low hammer, and now we're trying to pick back up again, giving higher probability that buyers want to probably go bounce their head against that resistance, right? Now, regardless of what happens today, because we have FOMC minutes, we have GDP coming out tomorrow, and of course we have many more reports coming out the next week and the week after that. So again, I'm more leaning that we do continue to sell off, but if a buy reaction happens, it's going to be above this 397.50, 397.65 area to possibly go reject that same 408, 410 area. So this is kind of our main range for the daily. On the smaller time frame, and ignore the blue areas as well. A lot of the time, this is what my team asks for. I'm highlighting the previous day open to a good resistance that turns support, and then I'm also grabbing from the previous day close to the previous day high. So these are just two pivot points I was worried about, as well as a couple others from previous days, but I'm not really worried about that right now. And as you can see, with our updates and everything, we were able to point out, hey, we had a buyer reaction. And I pointed this out in my list. I said yesterday we fell under the significant 390.75 area, and we ended up tanking, and then we ended up making a low and a higher low right at that area that we have marked here at 388, that big area you just saw me talk about on the daily time frame. It picked up from there, made an inverse head and shoulders from there, made a higher low, second higher low, continued higher, and we ended up finishing above the 390.75 that they needed to close above to maintain that bullish control that meted the bones right here. So if they were to tank under this level and close, we probably would have had a very red day today. We ended up pushing up, extended hours come back down right before open. We end up doing a little bit of a rounding move here. Open happens, and we get a 10-minute pump. This happens a lot on indecisive days. Some days we get a 10-minute drop, 10-minute pump, whatever. Though, either way, we don't trade the first 10 minutes, sometimes the first 30 minutes. It's always very indecisive. As you can see, though, price ended up maintaining inside of that range after pumping instead of just reversing and showing weak or, even just indecisive price action. It actually ended up holding really good price action in a good area as well. Again, patterns with positioning. So even though we had an evening star pop up, we had a good buyer candle pop back up, hit resistance, hold support, and this is kind of around the same time as our Apple trade right here. As they're holding the 393.55, Apple was holding that 193, I think it was. Sorry, 139, not 193, 139. So about the same time that this was happening and pushing up, you saw SPY do the same thing on its significant level here at about 393.50. So different levels, but same exact price action, same exact movement, same exact momentum. It's very cool to see that. And a lot of time you're going to see that in Apple because it weighs the most. It is the most affected by SPY and Qs. It affects these the most. Apple is the king of the market. As you can see, it's pushing up to the 397.40, 397.60 area that I mentioned. So what we're kind of looking out for in the future, besides what I just broke down in the daily time frame, on the smaller time frame side of things, we're looking for a continuation above 397.65, or we're mainly going to range trade in between here the rest of the day, now that we have minutes towards the end. So towards lunchtime, I would generally just be done trading. But if you guys enjoyed this video and want more of these, please let us know and we'll do more. But please leave a like and a comment below. See you on the next one.